Have you ever fallen in love with a prayer? The way you might fall in love with a poem by Mary Oliver or Maya Angelou. The way you might fall in love with a song and just want to hear that song again and again and again because of where that song moves you, where that song takes you. The first time I fell in love with a prayer, I was 12 years old. Sunday school. Shacharit, our morning service. And we begin the way we always began, by singing Matovu. Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. And when we get to the line, Hashem ahavti me'on beitecha, God, I love your house, it hit me. I love God's house. I love these prayers. I love singing these words. The very first lines of the first prayer of the morning, and that was not an accident. Our Siddur is written as a script. It's a rehearsal. And we rehearse citing holiness in the world. We rehearse apprehending the divine. It's a playbook. And we run drill after drill after drill, building our spiritual muscles, building our way into a spiritual relationship with God. Have you ever fallen in love with prayer that way? Like that first love prayer of mine, Matovu. This is a teaching of Dr. Ellen Frankel, the editor emerita of Jewish Publication Society. She says the Matovu is nothing less than a spiritual compass. Anywhere I might meet God is in Matovu, with 6 references to place: palace, tent, dwelling, place, shelter, and house. If I need to meet God in God's palace, seeing God in God's majesty, I can do that. If I'm crushed and on my knees in despair, I can meet God in God's shelter, God's refuge. I go into the synagogue and understand that I can meet God anywhere I need to meet God. And that prayer begins with Jacob. Jacob, who has this dream of a ladder that connects earth to heaven. The angels ascend, the angels descend. He wakes and he says, Achen, yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, v'anochi lo yadati. Surely God was in this place, but I didn't know it. But then I woke up. I woke up and I realized that God is right here, right now. In Matovu, I go into God's house singing the love of God, and I come out as Jacob, recognizing I'm still in God's house. God's house is everywhere. Once I fell in love with the V'ahavta. The V'ahavta immediately follows the Shema, our creed. It talks about putting the mezuzah, the scroll, on our doorpost. It talks about wrapping our arm with the tefillin. It talks about this great desire to speak of God when we go, when we come, when we sit. This is a teaching of Rabbi Yafa Epstein of Pardes, who says, V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha. And you shall love Hashem your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And while you're at it, go crazy with love. Tack little notes on the wall. Tack a note on the fence. Tie a string around your finger. Wrap a strap around your arm. Be all a Twitter with the love of God. Talk when you go, when you come, when you rise, when you sit with your kids, with your friends. I'm just so in love with God. I'm going to keep talking. This is crazy teen love. And then it switches. In the next paragraph, it's covenantal love. I have obligations to God. God makes commitments to me. We are in relationship with one another. And that word, ahava, that's in matovu. I go into God's house recognizing that I can meet God wherever I need God. I come out recognizing, yes, yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. God is right here, right now, and every kind of love I might have is acceptable in that relationship. We do a lot of pretending in our Siddur. We pretend that we're angels when we say the Kedusha, the holiness addition to our Amidah, the standing prayer. We assume the position of the angels. We bow to one another as if we are angels. Not that we want to be angels. That's their business. We want our voices to have that heavenly quality, that angelic voice we believe exists. And what if I was to take this practice of bowing to my friends, my family, my synagogue mates, and actually see the divinity in them as I practice that? How would it change the way I go out in the world? How would it change the way I see other people as I practice seeing angels all around me in synagogue? We pretend that we're getting Torah from Sinai when we take the Torah from the Ark. We parade it around the synagogue the way we paraded the Ark through the desert. How would it change the way I hear Torah every time Torah is read, if it's a brand new gift every single time? On Shabbat, we pretend that the arrival of the queen is the arrival of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a queen. We bow in the direction of holiness. This is a practice I can take anywhere. Each of our chagim, each of our festivals have its own form of holiness. I can bow in the direction of that holiness. I'm already practicing bowing in the direction of the holiness of other people. And I certainly can bow in the direction of the holiness in nature. Can you imagine falling in love with prayer that way? Can you imagine having a love affair with a Siddur? And love affair is the perfect metaphor because this isn't easy. It takes work. There are prayers in the Siddur that don't make sense to me. There are prayers that I struggle with. I am in dialogue, in relationship with the Siddur. And then there are times when prayer simply falls flat. It doesn't seem to make sense. When my wife passed away of traumatic brain injury, all of my ability to pray simply left. I had and still have 2 adult daughters. They were in their own journey of grief. I was in my journey of grief. How could I help them? Well, I could pray. So I wrote a prayer called for bereaved children, and that cracked me open. Every spiritual exercise that I had done, every drill, every rehearsal from the Siddur came rushing back in. And I wrote prayer after prayer after prayer, literally hundreds of prayers, climbing my way out of grief. I remembered, Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, God is right here, right now. There are those who say that spirituality is about unlearning. Unlearning all of our misconceptions about holiness, about God, about the divine. I disagree. Jewish spirituality is about remembering. Remembering who we are and remembering that God is right here, right now. Our Siddur has the power to make us like Rabban Gamliel. Gamliel goes out, he sees a caper bush. The caper bush puts out a new bud every single day for a month. He sees this bush and he says, This is a siman, this is a symbol surely that in Olam Haba, in the world to come, fruit trees will put out new fruit every day. Gamaliel looks into nature and he sees hints of holiness. He looks at a bush and he sees hints of the world to come. Our prayer has the power to make us like Rabbi Akiva. Akiva and his colleagues approach the temple ruins. The temple ruins are like dust and ash in their mouths. They're wailing. He's laughing. They're wailing. He's laughing. And a fox runs out. He laughs out loud and he says, this is a sure sign that Jeremiah's vision of a rebuilt temple will come true. He can have joy because he can look in destruction and he can see hints of renewal. He can look at grief and he can see the potential for joy. Our Siddur has the power to make us like Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who says, approach the world with radical amazement. Everything is amazing. Everything is wonderful. Can you imagine falling in love with prayer like that? That's the great invitation of our Siddur. To fall in love with prayer, to remember that God is right here, right now. Like that closing line to Matovu. Va'ani tefilati lecha Hashem et ratzon, classically translated as, for me, let my prayer come up to you in a time of great need. But I prefer to translate it this way. Va'ani tefilati lecha, and I will be a prayer to you, Hashem, my God. Let me rise before you as a prayer, as my offering, as a favor. What if there was a gift to you, refined over the generations with songs and poems and stories? What if that was on your bookshelf? Maybe it is. Or in your purse or in your pocket. Certainly in every synagogue in the world. What if that gift had the power to teach you to build those spiritual muscles? What if that gift is already yours? Thank you.